following podcast is recorded and produced by Emerge, a media creators co-op, in affiliation with the network at bicbp-radio.com.
Hello and welcome back to the Next of Kin podcast. I'm your host, Rich, joined by my son, Christian. How you doing?
A little tired, but
A little tired.
It's early.
It's early. I don't know what's going on outside. There's loud noises outside today. I don't know if the mics are picking that up.
It might get picked up. So.
But we're back here at the Emerge Studios, and I feel like we didn't end up taping last week. I think a lot of stuff just came up.
Yeah.
Or we taped early, and then we were going to tape again. I don't know. It's whatever. Still haven't seen Avatar 2 on the Avatar 2 update.
We're going to go see it, and then, like,
You keep
I'm
saying that.
I'm going to buy the tickets, so then we're going to get there.
You're going to, like,
and then it's gonna
kidnap
be like,
me?
No.
You're
I'm
going to
buy
chloroform
I'm
me
gonna
and
buy
put
the,
a bag
the
over my head
Avatar
so I don't know where we're
and
going?
then we're going to go there, and then it's going to be like, look, Puss in Boots. It's like
Okay,
I'm going to
let's-
trick you to go into the theater to go see Avatar, and then we're just going to go see Puss in Boots because it's shorter.
You can see Puss in Boots twice, probably.
Yeah, we see that movie twice in the span then. And it's got better reviews, so not by much. But
not by much. I do like the fact that
It's got better fan score.
Yeah, it's got a better fan score. I think it's more iconic.
Dude, there's that one scene I seen on Twitter. That was horrible grammar, but there's that one scene on Twitter that was going around of him like attacking like some giant and running around on the top of buildings, and the dude looks like he's in an Attack on Titan. Like,
well, then you showed me like someone added.
Yeah,
like,
somebody added the theme music behind him running
from it, which I think is great. So
and I'm like, that is totally a reference.
It's totally a reference to
funny.
it, and I think that's.
And I just
kind
keep
of
seeing
why
people like post pictures of the stupid like villain, which is like some wolf, like called Death or something.
I do like the
and
fact
like people
that
love
they,
this villain for some reason, so we got to see. Puss
it's
in
interesting,
Boots,
like
apparently.
because I do feel like when the makers of that what is that DreamWorks?
Yeah, it's DreamWorks.
So I like that DreamWorks kind of understands that
DreamWorks
their
kicked
movies.
Disney's ass this year.
Well, let's get to that in a second. I like the fact that they made that movie understanding it's for some little kids, but it's also from an adult too.
Yeah.
So
And the animation style
there's
seems
not enough
really
movies
unique,
where
so-
families where families can both go and
Yeah.
enjoy it, and I think this was a good
The
call.
animation style is just really creative too, like, and that's what you should do. Like, it shouldn't just be like all cookie cutter like animation for this stuff. Like, you should put the work into it, and I think that's the residual effect. Like, finally taking like effect after like Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Because obviously like Pixar's always like kind of pushed like the limits of like animation, but it's kind of in their style.
Right.
If that makes sense. Whereas like Spider-Verse was kind of its very
had a
its
new
own
look to it.
like a new tone,
It had a
new
new
thing.
look, like
yeah.
just the style, the way the characters are stylized.
And I think like Puss in Boots is kind of takes a bit after
A little
that.
bit of that, yeah.
Not in the
I do like that
same sense,
that when
but
you look at it,
movement-wise.
you said that DreamWorks actually ended up having a better year than Disney
Yeah, a lot
Animation
better year.
and Pixar.
Yeah, they had some of
Pixar
that.
had a couple, obviously that movie
Well, Buzz Lightyear came out. And
Buzz Lightyear
it
was
a dud.
not well received.
It was a dud.
And then the other one they had the problem with was
Strange World.
Strange
or
World,
something,
which
got
I think
a
was
lot
just
of-
too strange for people. They
Which,
just
like-
didn't know what it was, and they just didn't go. I mean, I don't even think it was like there wasn't a lot of good marketing for it, at least not anything that I saw.
And I don't even know. Like, it's just
There was a little.
marketing.
There wasn't even that much marketing on Disney Plus.
There was marketing for it. Like, I remember seeing like a decent amount of stuff, but like nobody ever knew what it was about, which just kind of gives the impression that you're not really don't really like your story. that
I
much.
think if you're going to do a movie about that's geared for families and little kids,
Yeah.
you got to be very clear in the trailer what the movie's about.
Yeah.
Like, I know what Puss in Boots is about. It's his last life. He's got down to his it's kind of like Doctor
Yeah.
Who, it's like Matt Smith's last episode. That it's down to his 9 lives. He's used them all up, and then he's got to kind of go low key.
Strange Worlds also got
and,
caught
you
in
know,
the culture war bullshit as well. So I
Yeah,
we don't
I
like
don't
getting
even
political,
remember
but-
hearing that much about it. I just
No,
heard
but
that
it did
nobody
like
went
in the
to see it.
fringes because I think if I remember correctly, I think Strange World has like a like an LGBT characters or
Right.
something as like in the main cast, and so obviously like whenever that happens, it's like they're trying to indoctrinate my kids.
Whether that's the thing
Whatever
or
it is,
not,
like,
whether
so
the
but
thing
either
or
way,
not,
it ends up
you
getting
take a
into the
chance-
political sphere.
You take a chance
So,
that
like,
you're gonna mess
whether
up
that's
their
fair or
audience.
not. That's
Right,
where it ended
right.
up. Like,
Right. Whether it is or not, or
I'm not
whether-
making a
whether,
judgment one way
whether
or the
companies
other.
should do it or shouldn't do it
Yeah.
is we're not ever going to debate that because that's just we can't win that battle here. But more
it's not as
importantly,
interesting, so.
like from a box office standpoint, you take a risk of that. You know,
And to be fair, they didn't.
Hence the success.
But they also seem
of
like to be a
another
little
show.
bit afraid of it though, because
Right.
like it's like okay, I assume like I don't know if like their like I guess like LGBTness like actually like was uber important to like the story or not between like characters or not, but like why didn't like if that was what you were doing, like that never was, you never showed that in the trailer, so it's like look, we're gonna try to be like progressive and like have these in the movie, but we're not actually gonna even like tell people that that's what this movie's about at all. If I don't know, again, I don't know if they know. Nobody knows what this movie's about. Nobody knows what this movie's about. Like even after it's been out for a month, but because nobody saw it. Like it made 70 mil as like a Disney, like Walt Disney animated, like this is the same like type of film as like Zootopia or like a lot of these other films that usually do like big numbers for Disney, and this thing made less than 100 mil. Like.
I just think when it comes down to
just because like the marketing,
just
nobody
wasn't
knew
a
it
good
was
movie, maybe
that too.
like,
But like,
you know.
but I think like the marketing almost told you that it wasn't a good movie because like you wouldn't tell us anything about it.
I don't even know. Like it's one of those weird ones. Like I just don't think that they had a real good plan on who that movie was for and how they
also
were
like the design of it. It just didn't look unique. It looked very
yeah, it looked cookie.
Yeah, the characters didn't really have much like I don't know, unique.
Well, let's move on because
yeah,
I don't care
exactly,
about
but-
that movie at all. So
Exactly, just
Nobody did.
weird situation with that though.
Okay,
But interesting that DreamWorks got one over for once because usually
No, DreamWorks
Disney,
had a good
usually
year.
like Pixar plus whatever Disney movie comes out
Right.
like stomps out DreamWorks. Not that DreamWorks does bad, but
Disney always does, and Disney Pixar always does. a
yeah,
little bit
they
better
usually
than-
kick ass. So.
But more importantly, did you watch the new Velma show?
That's like everyone in
Nobody-
everyone
anybody
in
liked it
unison
hates it.
that. Like speaking of the culture war, like
If you want to
there's
find
no
a way,
there's no sides
listen,
to that.
If
even,
you
like,
want to find a way to bring America together,
Just
make
keep
them
making-
all
yeah.
watch Velma.
I don't even know what
because
the
there's
fuck
something
this
for
is,
everyone to hate. I don't know anything about
I
it
don't-
except
I
it's
can
terrible.
I can
That's
only
all I know.
Given like I've seen clips and stuff because I refuse to like give it a watch like at any level. But I think the only like way you could view it is like it was made to purposely piss people off. Like for like attention, like that's the only thing that could like realistically make sense. Because otherwise, like there's no, it's a Scooby-Doo spin-off or like the next whatever like adaptation of it.
Right.
There's no dog. Like
Well,
there's no Scooby-Doo, which is like, do
I
people
have a
not
take
realize
on
that
this.
like
I have a
people
take
are,
on
do
this.
they not realize that people are actually like fans of Scooby-Doo? Not that like we know all the lore and stuff, but
Yeah,
like everyone has a deep, like a lot of people, especially in, like North America, I was seeing like people have a deep like nostalgic connection to like Scooby-Doo.
Well, here's
like
my take on the whole thing. Go back and look.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, like I don't know if there's like a Kevin Feige for Scooby-Doo. Like I don't
think
know
so,
if there's someone who's in charge of
Hanna-Barbera
Let me
or something.
whoever is in charge of like Hanna-Barbera animation, whatever it is, whatever
it's changed hands
whatever
many
is
times.
attached to those things, and obviously there isn't. The last 3 or 4 things that they've tried to do with Scooby-Doo are just stupid.
they canceled Scoob 2, which I remember Scoob. I don't know if that movie was any good or not, but like Scoob 2 was almost done. Scoob 2 got the Batwoman, the Batgirl treatment.
Yeah, like
too.
you're never
like,
gonna see the. They had, I can't think of the actor's name. They had that great actor that took over for the role of Shaggy after Casey Kasem, who everybody loved. Like nobody cared if Michelle Gellar or Freddie Prinze or any of those other guys
Wasn't
came
it Freddie
back for
Prinze?
this. I can't think of the actor's
I think
name.
it was Freddie Prinze, right?
No, it's
Is
Freddie
Freddie Prinze
Prinze
the
played
voice?
Fred. Michelle Gellar, his
No,
wife,
somebody did the
played-
voice. The guy you're talking
The
about.
guy who did Shaggy.
No, the guy. It was the guy that was literally the guy who was in live action. I think
Yes,
this,
that's
the
what I'm talking
live
about.
action guy
He was
continued
so
to do
well,
the voice.
He was
yeah.
so well respected.
People loved him, too.
Even Casey Kasem said, if there's anybody going to take over the character, it should be this guy, and he should do it till he's dead. And they pulled that guy for some odd reason.
Yeah, that was weird.
And it was like, well, you know, we're trying to go in a different direction. Like, how could you take something as simple as Scooby-Doo, which everybody likes, just keep making stupid Scooby-Doo goes to the island of Misfit Toys or whatever it is, and then he's got, oh, it's a monster, and they're building a carnival at the end. Don't try. How do you mess up Scooby-Doo? Like, it's the easiest thing. And now let's do a show in the Scooby-Doo universe, as it were, and not have Scooby-Doo in it. Yeah. Like, and then just change everybody. Like, I don't even care about sexuality. Like, I don't give a shit, like, about that. Just make new characters. Just make up new characters. Have a spin-off.
This is like
Scooby's cousin.
This is like a person
Velma's
who like
cousin. Shaggy's cousin. Like, I don't care.
This is like Mindy Kaling, right, or something. Is like behind this. Who's like someone from like he was on The Office, I think, and like was writer on The Office
that might
as well.
Be the name, guys.
But
the guy's a good voice actor. Obviously, he was a great actor. He had an incredible interpretation of that character. Like, and then and again, why I wouldn't have a problem even if they got like Freddie Prinze and Michelle Gellar and came back and did another live action with those folks. Everybody would go see that. Everybody would go see that because those movies are pretty well liked. The first one's bad but they really.
I mean, neither of them are very good.
The first one's bad because they tried to make almost do a parody of Scooby-Doo.
The second one, the second one's over the top. I like the second one because over the top.
They totally embraced the Scooby-Doo universe in the second one.
There's actual monsters. They're not even
like
dudes in like costumes.
And everything.
It's just actual monsters.
And the stupid Scooby-Doo on a
plane. Has
like
a Avengers
He's
moment.
dressed like a woman on a plane and everything. Like, it was great. Everybody liked it. It was something for everybody in that movie.
They have like a Scooby Dooby Doo like a
like Scooby Dooby Doo. It was great.
Like James Bond.
We watched that thing like a million times. Just keep it simple. How can you mess up Scooby-Doo? I'm sorry, it makes me mad.
Yeah, but I just don't understand.
I don't care about any of the other crap. Just keep it simple. I think this is my impression for everything. If you don't like, or if you feel like whatever franchise it is needs to be expanded from a culture standpoint, just spin it off. Create new characters within that. If you want a female action hero in the James Bond universe, like, just create the new one like they did in the last James Bond movie. She was great. Give her own movie. I'd go see it. I don't care if they have another woman. She's just not James Bond, though. She can be 007, which I thought was really smart from a filmmaking standpoint, that she wasn't James Bond, but she was 007. That was a great happy medium in between. Like, and no one complained. No one complained about that woman in that movie because she was good, she was tough, she was believable, and she respected James Bond when he came back after their little bit of what else. And she says, I recommend that we reinstate him as 007.
I think the problem with Velma is that it's approaching it from like, and again, I don't want to talk about like woke or like bullshit like that, because most of the time it's like not even like that. But this is like a case where they just took a property and they took a character, like they barely understand like any of it, like the character that they're trying to portray, like, because again, because obviously I think they're trying to do like a Velma's like homosexuality, which has like always been like almost like an inside like theory, or like, which has always been a thing. Like, each of those characters kind of have like inside, like Shaggy and Scooby, they never say, or like not Scooby I guess, but Shaggy's they never say is a pothead, but like, and guess what, like he's like
he likes cannabis,
and like, but also like there's multiple like Velma is sometimes gay, and sometimes is straight. Like, it's kind of what has always been like the idea, because sometimes she's like with Shaggy, like, and there's been certain shows where like her and Shaggy are like a thing. So like I remember like shows when I was like like when I was in like the early 2010s or like
like
late,
all those animated
late
ones.
20, there was a couple like newer-ish. There was even a couple like shows on like Cartoon Network or something that had like they weren't actually, but like What's New Scooby-Doo or something. I don't even know. That might be not it, but
that might not be what you're thinking.
I don't know. But either way, Scooby-Doo's been rebooted, and like there's so many iterations of Scooby-Doo. So the idea that like you would have like
the last 4 or 5 stink.
But also like this idea that they're also like, I don't care about like race swapping most of the time, but it's like they're like 50. These are 50-year-old characters. Like,
it just doesn't make any sense. Like,
and also like, but they're not
introduce new characters,
and they're not their character either.
Scooby-Doo,
like,
the next generation.
From what I've seen
just
of like
bring in new characters.
From what I've seen of like none of like from all the characters like in the show, like none of them are actually even like anywhere near like the actual character that they are.
So then they could have just
so you just made up. So you just like have them. You just wanted to use the property.
It's the multiverse Scooby-Doo.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, you just wanted to use. I don't care like when you like. It's people don't like when you and this is the problem with certain things with Star Wars and like other and like The Witcher. Like, people don't like when you take a property that's like popular and then you deviate like super far, like when it's more about like you have a story that you're trying to tell, that's like kind of your messaging and your like this, and then you shoehorn it into like a popular universe,
right?
You know, without care for like whether it fits. Because like from what I've seen, like Velma is like is one of those simple, like Velma's the only like good, like kind of not asshole person protagonist. You know what I mean? Like in those type of comedies where everyone else around her is a piece of shit. They make Daphne like is like Asian now, and she's like the it girl, which is like also perpetuates a new thing they've done, which is making Asians it girls in like high school in media, which is like a very new that's a very new trend of like so you're trying to do like a woke or I guess like type thing, or trying to send like a progressive messaging with the show, and yet you like or do weird stereotypes. There's another scene I remember where like a person like Velma's having like a panic attack, and it's like the worst and it's a comedy, but like it's the worst representation of like a panic attack like ever, of like and how you would like calm down someone having a panic attack. And I'm like, not that, again, it's a comedy, but like it's like you don't like if you're trying to do this like woke progressive thing, and then you don't have the wherewithal to be like, also we're also gonna make like ableist jokes or like jokes about depression. It's like then you don't understand like who's the audience for this then, because it's not like the people that you're gonna piss off with just the fact that you've race swapped everyone, and that you're and it's not the people, and you're not gonna do the people that you've like you think that race swapping is going to like attract, because then you're doing jokes that they're not gonna like. So like who is this for? Like I don't like who is like it's only like, to me this seems to be have only been made to like draw attention, like good, any publicity is good publicity. That seems to be the theory here. Unless they're like, unless it's just so horrible, which again, that happens sometimes. Sometimes people just make really horrible shit that it like gives the impression of something completely different. Right. But like, that's the only thing I can imagine. We spent
too much time on
this. No, true. But to be fair, this has been a big talking point that people have been
I don't
have curious
I
about.
just don't understand like.
I just don't understand the thought process at all.
There's so many ways they could have done this show. And it would have been fine if they had a thing where it was
you could add, like,
Velma's cousin.
Why couldn't they be older and they have like
stepsister?
Why couldn't like the mystery gang be older, which we've almost never seen as them as like adults?
Well, that's
and
what
then
you have
a next generation.
The movies are that.
Like, why couldn't you have like and the next generation could have like whatever kid of race or color you want, like, and then they're the older
it's the same
ones,
high school. Like, you know, they find the van, Ghostbusters esque. They.
Or maybe you start off and you just have a couple, like one or two of the old
character.
gang.
You could have one character back, and you don't need, and then that excuses why you don't need the dog, because they don't have a dog. Like,
or they have a new dog, or
they
something.
have a new dog, or they get the dog eventually.
I don't know.
I don't know. Like, there's so many ways they could have done it, which would have been fine if it existed in the same universe.
Force Awakens it. You have one of the characters serve as a mentor. I mean, Fred's like a mentor, okay? Fred and Daphne are like the mentors.
You could have
Fred
and Daphne's kid,
and then as you go through, you encounter Velma and Shaggy and Scooby,
instead of
who's
making
immortal.
her the jerk, make their kid the jerk. They're all at the same.
Yeah, I don't know, man.
It's got a 1.3 out of 10 on IMDb.
Yeah, why can't you do like it's like Velma's kid and like Shaggy's kid and then like Daphne and Freddy's kid?
Okay. I don't. Let's move on.
I don't know. Either way, but
it's just annoying, and I don't want to.
It's just like it's made to piss people off. It's my opinion.
Well, and okay,
and it did. It succeeded, I guess. If that was its purpose.
Let's piss off the audience.
I don't know if that'll get it.
Okay.
I don't know if that's gonna get it like renewed or not, but we'll see. It's an interesting strategy, not the one I would have taken.
Well,
but you know,
let's destroy a universe.
HBO
I don't even understand, but all right.
Also, it's like a really shitty. The last thing
I don't know about it anymore.
Last thing I'll say, it just seems like a really shitty like copy paste of Harley Quinn. Like of that type of like
same channel.
Yes, it's literally the same service too. It's like they ripped off themselves, but they watered it down even worse. And like and Harley Quinn, no, but
like
also Harley Quinn.
Guy.
No, exactly. Harley Quinn fully understands the universe it's making fun of and like existing in. There doesn't seem to be like the inside jokeness of like the Scooby-Doo universe that's present in like the DC-ness of Harley Quinn. It's just all the other shit without any like sense of what it's doing. So I don't know. Moving on. What's next?
Thank God. Moving on.
What's next?
Mando trailer. So Monday night during the during the ESPN, which obviously is a sister property to Disney, owned by Disney. During the halftime of the Tampa Bay Dallas game, they released the Mando trailer, which obviously they also immediately released on social media.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited. Like I
mean, there's not a whole lot new in the trailer.
There was definitely some things that the two big things that everybody. I would say that came up that everybody saw was we definitely saw a more a clear shot of the attack on the Jedi Temple and actual Jedis about to be attacked by people that are trying to kill them.
Yeah,
and we could. Do you want to start with that?
Let's see. Yeah, that's
because
probably the most.
Lots of people have identified potentially one of the characters.
That's the newest thing that in the trailer that I would say is the most significant from what we got. Although I will say that from this trailer,
let's start with that. Yeah. Let's start with the Jedi scene.
Sure. I mean, it's only like a second, but it seems to be a continuation of like. I mean, it looks similar to like the one Jedi scene we've already got from like the Book of Boba Fett, in when Luke kind of goes
it's expanding
into
that scene.
Because when Luke goes into like his brain and like pulls a memory out. In that scene though, from the Boba Fett, it's like we see like 3 Jedi. 3 of those Jedi get killed though, including one with like this one with the look. That is of this character that you mentioned.
Right.
So I'm not sure
who's that character?
I'm not sure if this is getting
character.
I will get around to that. Okay. I think I've blanked on it at the moment anyway. So but either way, what is that character's name?
We'll look it up.
Yeah, look it up.
So
you continue.
So I think what we're going to get is that some point during the course of that season, we're going to get that Grogu starts to get more of his memories back. So we're going to see a more complete version of what happens. I don't know what the context.
We're going to figure out who
I don't know what the context is, but clearly, if we know the lore, those 4 Jedi that are there, looks like protecting younglings. The door busts open, and from what we know, that really should be Anakin Skywalker and which group of clone troopers is with him in that one? Which force is that?
The 501st.
The 501st.
But I'm saying like in that
those are the ones that come in through that door, and obviously we've seen just a quick shot of it in film, and we saw some more of it in animation. But now I think we're going to get a full on. I think we might actually get the fight scene.
Yes. Well, Zach said something. My brother Zach said something to me yesterday. I haven't had the time to verify this or like look into it too much, but Zach saw something. I might even be on like TikTok or something that the 4 Jedi that we see in the trailer look a lot like the 4 Jedi. Remember like when Obi-Wan finds out Anakin finds out Anakin even sees like the hologram and like sees him killing Jedi. He looks like the Jedi, like the 4 Jedi that are killed on the camera there.
Right.
Which would be very interesting to see. Like, okay, so Grogu's was near that, and part of that clip though is the Jedi. I think the Battle Master. I think it is. Let's see.
Yeah, the Battle Master character that you were talking about.
Let's see if I can find the actual name of the guy. Sindralig.
Yeah.
This dude right here. You see?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a guy that looks a lot like this in obviously in both flashbacks. He's killed by clones in the one, which again, I don't know if this has ever been legend. I don't know if his legends are canon at this point, but Anakin kills Sindralig, himself.
Is that something we've seen?
No. I'm not actually. Sindralig might be.
Who's Barriss Offee?
I will get to that. Okay. Sindralig might be killed on the hologram, if I remember correctly. Right. I'm not sure though, off the top of my head. But either way, some people think that he's like the Battle Master, which is like one of the best saber. He's one of the best in saber combat in the entire order. Right. Is supposed to be what it is. So there's potentially like a really good, great, saber fight available there between say Anakin and this dude that you could have in there, and maybe connect Anakin to Grogu a little bit more.
So what I want to know is when I want to look at it from a practical standpoint,
And the door is sparking in the thing.
Yeah,
so there's an idea, is it just clones coming through, or is it like a lightsaber? Well, a lot of the time when we see it sparking...
I think it's going to be... I wouldn't be surprised if we don't get an Anakin attack here.
Yeah.
With the 501st.
Well, again, someone's got to save him,
let me
too,
think
though.
about it. Going back to... I think the premise of why we're going to see this, again, it's got something to do with Grogu's growing and his memories awakening. And clearly in the trailer, you're starting to see his ability to use the Force is very pronounced.
Well, we even saw it in
we see it at the end of the trailer.
When we see it in Boba Fett too. Like he's starting to awaken. Right. And even Luke says it. Luke says it himself. That he's awakening more his energy than being taught.
Then. So, how advanced was he before he closed himself off to the Force, so to speak? Was it trauma related? Whatever it's going to be.
Well, let's say he's a typical Jedi foundling, which is
right. Yeah, but he's more than that. He's definitely more than a typical Jedi foundling, which is why they.
But I'm saying I'm just saying, but the genuine, like, okay, let's say he's like taken to the temple within like the first 3 years of his life or something, which is like the normal like Jedi at the time thing, which I think is like fairly likely either way. If not, unless he's like a secret project and he was born there, which I think it was more likely that Yoda's race almost has like representatives or something that like are the Jedi Order has different relationship with various like Force groups that aren't like totally Jedi, but a lot of these Force groups, like they're like Plo Koon's race, like has one, and many of these orders will all be, like will send people to become Jedi as like almost like people, things like that.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. So I think maybe it could be something like that. But either way, so
that's why we're going to see this.
We see that door. The idea of them showing that door to me, it seems like it's significant. But
and
also that doesn't solve who's going to save or take Grogu from the temple.
If you look at the shot, it's from Grogu's perspective.
Just like how the other one in the last trailer was.
So that's why I do think that it's going to have something to do with like his awakening of the Force. And that's why I'm wondering... Like how?
Oh, to answer your question, how advanced is he? If he was there since he was like young,
right?
Then by the like, say he's by the time it's like Force Awakens, many masters trained him over the years, which could make sense. He can't really be a Padawan at his stage, so he's just kind of over the years getting a lot of training from different masters.
Right.
At least 20 years. Like he's got like at least 20 plus years, I would say, because like say
But okay, he wasn't a Padawan.
There's 20 years between 3 and 4.
Right.
There's 3 years over the course of 4 years over the course of the original trilogy, and then there's 5 or 6 years now. So it's been about 30 years since he probably has about 20 years of 20-ish years of
I don't think we're going to find out he was a Padawan.
No, he wasn't a Padawan. But he definitely has Force training, though, because even Luke says it himself. Like, he's more remembering than I'm teaching him anything.
Right. Well, that's why I think that it's going to turn out that he was farther along than people realize.
Yeah. And I think he's growing up well. I think we're going to have it at the age. They might even do a thing where, like, they mature very quickly.
Right. Well, whatever. Regardless of that,
so.
I don't think that even matters because there's all kinds of fan theories. There's the one fan theory is that he's the opposite of Anakin.
Well, yes, because theoretically they're born in the same year.
Let me finish, please.
So
yeah, like they're theoretically born in the same year. So he's the opposite of Anakin, which is kind of an interesting thing. I think that we're going to see that he's really obviously farther along than I think we kind of imagine because we really see him do not much of anything. Mm-hmm. And then I do think that we are going to find out who is the Jedi or who is the person that saved him.
Yeah.
There's two fans. It's funny because in the Boba Fett show, how many clones did we see protecting him in that scene? Does anybody go back and look at that? I didn't think it was 4. I thought it was only 3.
There's only 3 Jedi in that scene, but they all got killed by clones.
But weren't there 4 in the trailer?
In the new trailer, there's 4. Yes.
So I'm
pretty sure the ponytail.
I mean, I'm reaching.
But I'm pretty sure the ponytail guy dies by the clones in the last one.
Maybe it's
the
not one of them.
ponytail guy would be the guy that would go fight Anakin. Realistically,
it could be. It doesn't have to be an established character that rescues him too. It could be a completely character we don't know, which would be fine. I think it would make because then you can cast the actor. Yeah, but if it's a Jedi that we don't know, it's easier to cast an actor that we've not seen before and not have to worry about aging him up or aging him down.
I think most of the Jedi that we have available as like of people that we know survived, which is a fair few interesting options. none of them really have like an on-screen like counterpart. Right. So you can just do whatever you want.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So some is that why you mentioned Barriss Offee? Because some people think Barriss Offee might have done it. Barriss Offee is a fallen Jedi though, so which is interesting.
But why would he be there?
But also Barriss Offee ends up like in canon. There's some weird thing with Barriss Offee because Barriss Offee is how Ahsoka leaves the Order. Right. Barriss Offee is like Ahsoka's friend and ends up framing her for like the thing that for that whole
on Clone Wars.
Yeah, in Clone. I don't know. Have you seen that arc yet?
Yeah, sort of.
Okay, but either way,
I gotta rewatch it.
But either way, so Barriss Offee is kind of like the last time we see Barriss Offee, she's like going to prison,
right?
Like for like.
Oh yeah, no, I have seen part of this.
Yeah,
yes.
but also Barriss Offee, if I remember correctly, ends up like fighting with the Republic on Kashyyyk, like in the last days of the war. Like, so I don't know how that. I forget necessarily how that comes about, but there's an idea that she might be out and about.
There could be a character that
Quinlan Voss is still alive. Quinlan Voss is a pretty unique Jedi where he has the ability to like touch things and like track. It's a very like unique ability. Only like him and like the one Jedi from like the video game Jedi and Fallen Order really have it in canon. But he's alive and he's like a covert like almost like a undercover type Jedi.
Well, you got a couple things. It has to be somebody that theoretically was already on Coruscant.
Yeah.
Because they don't have time to go to Coruscant if they're not there. So unless the prison or wherever that girl is on Coruscant, which I would assume it would be, because she's not in a regular jail. She's got to be in a jail where the Jedi can keep an eye on her. So she's going to be in a Jedi jail. So theoretically, it could be someone like her. There's also another big fan theory. What? Greatest hero of the universe.
If you say Mace Windu, I'm going to like. No, not Mace. People think Mace Windu is going to come save him.
R2D2.
R2D2, like
he is on Coruscant.
That's not the worst
at this
idea
moment.
in the world.
It would be, and he already knows R2.
I honestly don't.
How great? Let's go. All right, let's go.
I'm honestly not like adverse to that. I'm not adverse to that theory. I think that's like not the worst idea in the world. Because like R2, what I don't know.
Especially if he's sent there on a mission to do it.
I don't know if R2 is like at the Jedi Temple. Like with them or not, I don't see why he wouldn't be.
He could be.
Like
he's R2.
He's with Anakin. Like when he leaves for Mustafar. Like he's literally with Anakin when Anakin goes and slaughters all those fuckers. And R2's like, all right, I'm cool with this. He's like,
I mean,
R2 should have crashed Anakin into a sun. That's what R2 should have done.
What are you doing?
Yeah, I don't know,
like,
man.
Should have had that scene. That's the scene we're gonna get. What are you doing? What's wrong with you, man?
Yeah, R2 should have talked some sense into him, man.
Really talk some sense into you, man. We're gonna, if we have time at the end, we're gonna do a thing where we rewatched.
What else is in this?
We rewatched The Last Jedi, and I'm gonna go rant about it a little bit. But the one thing I love about this universe, and that the times that R2 just basically is the most important hero in the entire Star Wars universe. Yeah.
But anyway,
if anybody saves Grogu, if it's R2D2, I think that would be great.
Yeah.
Back to the trailer. What else did you really kind of like? He's going to Mandalore, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, which I think I think a lot of the Mando type stuff we've already got fully we got a lot of those shots already. TIE interceptors I think is probably the next big thing that
So tell me about the TIE interceptors.
TIE interceptors have not been seen on screen. If I remember correctly, since like in live action, I mean, since like Return to the Jedi, I don't think. So like we got and also I think this is the first like real usage of like the Mandalorian gauntlet fighter, because that's what the TIE interceptors are chasing, a gauntlet fighter. So that's like a fucking badass thing for anyone who like cares about like the like the background world building and all the cool ships and stuff. Because like the gauntlet fighter is one of the newer like cool additions to Star Wars canon, I would say. We've most used through like a Clone Wars and Rebels. We saw it on screen though in Mandalorian before, but this is actually in action though, getting chased by interceptors, which are Vader's ship from A New Hope.
So there's a couple things that I noticed. So the one X-wing pilot that we saw in the one season, he's back, and he clearly has a conversation with Mando, and he knows Mando's up to something.
Yeah, things are ramping up.
So things are ramping up, and I feel like the Republic, I guess the Rebellion or whatever it is after the end of whatever we call them after the end, the New Republic, they're looking for people to help them, and I think this is the New Republic. I almost think that Mando's going to be busy trying to get Mando to get the Mandalorians to help with the New Republic.
My thing is, we don't know who. Okay, so there's a lot of things at play here. There's multiple Mandalorian groups. There's like Bo-Katan's group, and then there's the Armorers group.
Right.
And that's just 2. Like, we don't know if there's more. We don't know if they're simplifying it down to those 2. With being like all the other groups have like kind of picked like these 2 as their person. Obviously, Mando has the Darksaber. So
since he has the Darksaber, a lot of the Mandalorians that we're seeing in that trailer, aren't they by code? Don't they have to follow him?
I imagine there's going to be some level of that once people realize, like, once he runs into Mandalore. Well, I think that's why. Because, again, in the trailer we see, what's the one planet called that, not Moff Gideon, Carl Weathers' character, Navarro. And Navarro looks like very, very nice now. It's become trade center that they talked about. There's even like a statue of like IG-11 or whatever it is, like like in bronze, like stepping on like a stormtrooper's like helmet, so which was like in like a square, which is great. But there's like I think one of the arcs is going to be like pirates attack or like that town.
Right.
But there's a shot where like you see like all the Mandalorians, including like the heavy gunner from
that we saw.
I think it's just Favreau, at least his voice.
No, in Favreau, it's him in the costume.
Yeah, but either way, so I think it's those guys. Which I'm like, okay, how would he go about like getting those people to like actually follow him and help?
Well, that was my
like
question.
Certainly some people will be persuadable by the Darksaber.
If he has the Darksaber, don't some of them probably under the way?
A certain number of them who follow like the Mandalorian culture would probably. I mean, it's more of a Death Watch thing, I would think. But
okay, fine, Death Watch follows him.
But yeah, but there'd be certainly some Mandalorians he's going to run into are going to like want to follow him just by nature of him wielding the Darksaber.
That's what my point is. Yeah. So, and I think he's going to have a little band of guys that he brings in when he needs them.
Yeah, and the Mandalorians are like exponentially increasing this season. It looks.
Anything else in the trailer? Oh, R5.
R5, he's finally getting action.
He finally, more importantly, he fixed that broken motivator.
Force-sensitive droid.
He finally got that broken motivator fixed. We have no idea how he got from
he's force-sensitive.
Tatooine, like, I assume he just got sold by the Jawas.
No, he's force-sensitive, bro. That was the old comic.
To what's-his-face?
That was the old Legends comic.
That he was force-sensitive, and that's why he
knew that
breaks his own.
Yeah, he breaks his own motivator.
I didn't realize that was actually something that was in old canon. I thought you just made that shit up.
Fucking Legends is so fucking batshit. Like half of the like some of the stuff in Legends is great.
Know that.
Like they're like don't get like literally what
I literally thought that was just bullshit. You and your brother have been talking.
No,
about
that's
for
true.
Like
that's
10
an
years.
actual fucking Legends comic.
So that's why some of this shit's
there's a lot of really dumb shit in Legends, and there's a lot of really good stuff. Like they're doing like Heir to the Empire, like Knights of the Old Republic, really good Legends stuff. Like really good. And then there's you can't complain about
Force sensitive R5.
And then there's Force sensitive R5 who blows up his own motivator because he knows R2 needs to help Luke. So like he needs the story to continue. So
that's why they give each other the look on the sand.
So he blows himself up.
That's why he gives him the look on the sandcrawler.
Yeah, but apparently his time to shine is now. So he's going into action with Mando.
This is great. So clearly he goes with him when he goes to see Andy Serkis's wife.
Yeah, which I love that character. Andy Serkis' character is a very, very Star Wars-y character.
I like that they do have these kind of like bases that he kind of goes back to, which reminds me of the old westerns.
Exactly.
He goes back
homestead or almost.
Carl Weathers' planet, and when he goes back to Tatooine to the
docking bay. Otherwise, I think the most interesting arc seems to be like what I think is Coruscant. It could be a different core world. A lot of the core worlds have big like urban like stuff like that. But it looked to be like Coruscant, and it's Dr. Pershing, the clone doctor from like earlier on in the, and they're doing. I think there's an idea that
there's a lot of characters.
There's an idea that they're going to see Gideon. I think like in prison probably. Yep. So.
Eventually, we have to find out if we're getting the big bad on this or not.
I don't think we're gonna get. I think we're gonna get a tease.
Or is that going to be?
I think we're gonna get Thrawn teased in this because Thrawn will probably be an actual character in Ahsoka. At least maybe not the entire season, but towards the end of Ahsoka at least.
Definitely in my mind, and we've talked about this. I believe we've talked about this. In my mind, we're gonna build up to a point. That two things I want to say here. Two things are that because they announced that they're doing another Boba Fett season.
Well, is that announced?
That was pretty much announced.
I mean, I've seen leaks for like the pictures and stuff.
Another season of that. Obviously Ahsoka, and obviously Mandalorian. At least a couple more seasons. I think
the other one too. There's that's concurrent as well. There's what's it called? The Jude Law one. Skeleton Crew is also concurrent as well.
So my point is that we are building up to
four, I guess.
in television, we are building up to a Avengers Endgame.
Yeah, and they're doing it as an adaptation of Heir to the Empire, I think. And that brings us to the idea of like, okay, is Gideon his own faction, like the different factions in like the old Legends? Which again, like.
We still have the scientist out there.
The biggest,
whoever he was working.
The biggest sign of the direction for me is like Dave Filoni is going to be is the head of like creative direction at the moment at Lucasfilm, and the last thing that he like fully made and like directed and writ was episode 6 of the Book of Boba Fett, which is basically like an old Legends comic or like an old Legends book like brought to life, where like he literally had like that Luke Skywalker training Grogu, and then like Ahsoka showing up, and Mandalorian, Ahsoka, Grogu, and Luke Skywalker being in the same shot, and then ending the episode with Cad Bane showing up. Like this is literally him doing an Heir to the Empire like adaptation, but he's also adding storylines and plot threads from Clone Wars,
I'm telling
and from
you,
Rebels,
we're
from the original trilogy,
we're going to be
from
building
the video
up
games,
to a thing.
like,
and what I really like about all of this, where we'll get Captain Rex and we'll get characters from
we're definitely
Rebels,
getting Rex. We're getting Rex and Ahsoka,
we're going to get all those things. And I think what's going to happen is we are slowly, not we, because I got nothing to do with it.
There's going to be so many cameos.
I think what they're doing is they're slowly rewriting the canon of the Star Wars universe, and they're just kind of ignoring the movies. They're not saying the movies aren't canon, but I think he's just building his own version of it, and that's it. And then whatever, we're going to kind of ignore the JJ timeline, just like some people with Star Trek ignore the JJ verse, and we're just going to have this. This is my canon. This is my Star Wars canon. And the movies are whatever.
There's some idea that like I forget the planet. My Heir to the Empire knowledge is not as good as a lot of my other stuff, but there's some talk that like the planet from Heir to the Empire that is super important is gonna get like canonized soon, and that is like literally these animals that like repel the Force. That like Thrawn literally just fucking puts on his shoulder, like these little lizard things, and literally like you can't touch. Like they'll try to like do something, and literally like it will just it creates like almost like a bubble around like the user.
Force
so like
shields.
and this is like a biological like animal that this planet is also where like Thrawn in Heir to the Empire finds like a cloned like Jedi Master almost, that like the Emperor from like the Emperor's like personal like experiment collection or whatever, and then it becomes like a fallen like Jedi Master who
they
helps
were trying
him out.
to do something with Grogu's blood so they could
I've heard rumors of like
or put it into their own genetic creations to try to create
but the big thing is Thrawn is resourceful, and now that Thrawn is like is in charge, basically, imagine. And that's the idea. Is Gideon under Thrawn, or is Gideon a rival? We don't really know. Yeah. But, like, now that Thrawn's in charge, Thrawn has always been known for abusing... Well, he's the only alien officer we ever see in all of the Empire, and that's for a reason. That's because of his cunningness, and he's from, like, the Chiss species, which we haven't even seen a lot of in canon at all. And they're, like, a isolationist empire out in the unknown reaches, that have control a bunch of systems and are super tactically minded, and don't really. But either way, like Thrawn is just a very. I don't know if you've seen any of Thrawn for Rebels or anything, but very good character. There's a bunch of Timothy Zahn books from like the old Legends as well that lead up.
Zahn wrote a lot of the stuff
that lead up to Heir to the Empire as well. So there's a whole
he wrote a lot of stuff in the 80s too.
Yeah, exactly. But there's this. But I think there's this idea that even off the hook from the Empire, Thrawn will do all sorts of crazy shit. And like I have all sorts of like using Jedi, like a fallen Jedi Master to his advantage, like force repelling animals. I saw a leak of something like finding a different sect of Night Sisters out in the unknown reaches that he will then use like to his as a part of his like. And if we see Night like a different version of Night Sisters like in live action that Thrawn is using, like then these dudes know Star Wars like.
Well, they know better. These guys know Star Wars better. Nobody has any criticisms of their
like if you're going that creative with
and
it.
Their
like,
respect for the universe is just amazing. And obviously,
that was just a leak I saw.
Filoni only surrounds himself with people that either he charges to go learn all this shit, or he tells them exactly what happened. All right, so obviously Mando comes out March 1st. We're gonna get a quick overlap with that. I think maybe with Bad Batch for a week or something.
For a little bit. There's like 16 episodes of Bad Batch or something. There's actually gonna be a lot of overlap, I think.
So we got 4 episodes so far of Bad Batch out, and I mean Bad Batch is the A-team.
The first 2 episodes were okay.
We talked about this a little bit, real briefly, but Bad Batch is. I have no problems with Bad Batch. I like Bad Batch for what it is.
Yeah.
It is not super serious, which is fine because I don't need everything to be dark.
But it can be too.
I don't need everything to be Andor. Like I like where they're going with Bad Batch because I think it's slow. I mean, obviously, the last episode 4 is a one-off. And
I think they're building up,
which is fine. I don't care because I think there's some. I think what they're doing well in Bad Batch is you're seeing these little things like tech and everybody having conversations about
exactly. That's what I like.
We should be doing more, and I think they've got to get what's the tracker one's name? But the leader.
Hunter.
They got to get Hunter to understand. Hunter's still in this protective mode,
protect Omega.
and everybody,
and his team as well,
and everybody around him, and you want to protect. I think like the event, and Omega's trying to get him like I don't like because they made her a little bit more badass now, and
she's just more capable now.
Like she can, and they're training her, which I think we see that, and the fact that we see an episode with Commander Cody goes AWOL.
That's one of the best episodes of Bad Batch.
There's a lot
the third
of
episode.
really. And the discussions of what's going on in the universe is really cool because it's like it's in the background, it's over here, and it's going to build up. And I like the fact but it's also just fun. It's also the A-team at times.
Yeah, we're gonna break. I mean, the first 2 episodes are kind of like they're not like the most like impactful in terms of like propelling like a overall like plot forward, but it sets up like Echo well. It sets up like the tone I think of where the season's going, of like them wanting to do more. It's them trying to just get a big score so they can like pace it off and be out fully or whatever, and or have the money to do more. And then Echo, I like that Echo is the most like gung ho about like wanting to help and do more, which again, like his proximity to Rex like makes that like very very like clear that would be the case. But they also managed to like do a thing with Omega feels bad that like he overhears them.
She's holding them back too.
Exactly. So, but then you have a good so they through that arc you at least like improved Echo and Omega's relationship, which I feel like most of the first season was like, Hunter and Omega's relationship, and then secondary Wrecker and Omega. Right. So like giving the other characters, like even this one, like they gave Tech a little bit of relationship in the 4th episode. Well, they did Echo in the first couple. So I think they're
developing, and except for the
every episode I've gotten character development so far,
except for Gronk.
But even Wrecker's developed somewhat.
Wrecker, there's limited character development you can.
He's the comedic. He's also the comedic presence,
but
though.
The limitations you can have because obviously he is not the most intelligent of the group, and he really just does. But you could,
the gun that Wrecker makes in like the first couple episodes, where like they're him and Hunter are running away, and like they're just scavenging, and like he literally rips like a tank like out of like a tank battery, like a like I don't even like a power core or something, and like attaches it to like his turret, or like takes the turret and picks it up, and it's just literally shooting like tank shots, like at like he's like so big that he can just literally hold the barrel of the tank, and like fire it like as he's moving around.
I'm hoping on a personal level, I'm hoping they kind of like steal a little bit of the concept of Amos and throw it into Wrecker a little bit, like that he's we assume he's just a dope, but I'd like that he has his own perspective on things, and he occasionally just comes up with like one little jewel of wisdom once in a while. Like,
and that's what happened with the tank thing. That was pretty smart to put that together.
And he had enough, and he kind of went and he had his own creativity. Yeah. And I like that each character, because none of them feel as stereotypes as they were, which is obviously by design. Yeah. So I kind of like where it's going. The first 2 episodes are basically trying to get money, which doesn't. And
they're pretty standard Bad Batch episodes. I think they're actually
episode 3 wasn't standard.
Episode 3 is not standard at all, though. Episode 3 is
Bad
like
Batch isn't even in it. Really?
No. It's just Crosshair, and then they bring Cody in. Yeah. Which this is the first time we've seen Cody since the Return of the Jedi, I think. Not Return of the Jedi. Revenge of the Sith in terms of in the canon. Like this is like the first time, and then. And I think there was always this idea that Cody was more pro-Empire in the idea of Star Wars fans, but Filoni is obviously flipped that, because by the end of the episode he goes AWOL. At least that's what we're told.
Well, we keep getting this point that more and more
for the overall episode, yes, that is they're building up to
theme that a lot of clones are realizing what they did, so to speak. And they've got regrets for what they did.
And the chips are not full mind control.
And they're getting worried what's happening to them.
Yeah, they're actively starting to worry about, like, they don't, like, there's one point in that episode where, like, they're talking about they don't want the defense bill like the new defense bill passed because it'll make them more like obsolete. And it's just 2 random clones talking about that. So they're also aware. Like the clones are fully aware that of the precariousness of their situation as well. Because what is there for them to do once they're like deemed surplus to requirement by the Empire?
Right.
There's that was what they were bred for. That's what they were made for. Like there's not, and there's also this idea of well in the first episode, like the Imperial officer just kills the clone commander because he's like wants him to lie and break protocol. Like and he just killed, which is very Imperial. Imperials kill other Imperials all the time in like extended universe stuff.
No, definitely.
But
that
basically
pretty cool.
But obviously they have this.
Cody
it's a former,
goes AWOL, and that.
I think the overall thing of the episode though is that it's a reverse of the classic Clone Wars episode where the clones go on a mission and accomplish something and are the good guys and they beat the droids. In this one though, there's the droids obviously, but the droids are just trying to fight off the Empire. Also, there's a very subtlety when the Empire first shows up with like their new governor that they want to like assign to the planet. Right. He's only with stormtroopers. Right. So like they have like this idea that the presence they want there is to be humans. They want like this idea of make the galaxy reliant on us. Also like for employment and economically. Right.
And but
when shit goes wrong, they send the clones in.
And that's a nice
theme. So which says like, oh, the clones are getting used as the real enforcers. Right. Like the stormtroopers are for show and are more to get everyone on board and to like find other ways to dig your claws into society, whereas the clone troopers are still getting used exclusively as like, nah, you're just gonna go, all right, they took our guys hostage, go fuck them up. Right. That's basically, and that's what they did. They sent Crosshair in, they sent Cody in, and they do a flip on it. Where they're fighting the droids. Not that the droids in this situation are like good, but they're defending like a planet that doesn't want to be hostile takeover. So like they have the flip of it, where instead of like the clones being like the good guys, they're evil or not, but they're doing something bad. Well, even Crosshair kills the governor.
At some point, we're going to get like Crosshair's going to get to a point where he's got to make a decision because he's
protecting them,
but he obviously is not super impressed with his boss.
No,
because he feels like he should be commanding something again, and now he's only getting used when they need him to.
Yeah.
So at some point, he's going to start getting resentful, and he's going to start like. And at some point,
and he's like kind of
at
on
some
board
point
with
he's going
idea,
to start like because he heard other clone troopers say good soldiers follow orders, and his reaction to that looked a little bit different than when he says it.
Yeah, I think they're setting up.
I think we're gonna definitely get to a point where he's got to make a decision, and maybe he's going to start There's going to be some redemption for Crosshair.
I think we're doing Clone Rebellion.
I think we're going to definitely get.
Clone Rebellion. We're literally going to have like. I think that's why there's so few clones, unfortunately. I think there's so few clones because, like, they rebel and the Empire is going to take them out.
Well, there kind of has to be that.
I think so. But like, there's always this idea that maybe, like, most of them just, like, they used them for the first couple years and then because, again, they age quick. So maybe they aged out rather quickly. Even by the time we see Rex and Rebels, like, they're all of age where they wouldn't really be soldiers anymore. Right. And they're old guys. Like,
well, they're not making new ones, obviously.
Well, obviously they're not making new ones.
We know they're not making new ones.
But if they're doing, like, the clone, they're doing this pretty early on. They're doing a lot of AWOL clones, like, rather early on into the new Empire. So... At least, man, probably not all of the clones as well. Like, this is probably still a relatively small number, but maybe there's this idea that either we're going to try to get as many clones to, like, a safe place so they can, like, maybe have a life, and move on. And I
feel like there's going to be some level of that.
Or there's going to be a level of they have to fight the Empire. Like, well, it depends on what. It's like, are we going to free the clones? This is about, like, in giving them, like, the freedom that they were bred for this and that let them have some level after all the horror they went through to get them away? Or is it they're going to fight back and, like, against, like, the Empire for at least a little bit and try? Be, like, almost like the first rebellion is by, like, the clones. The people they used to the
problem, the only way to do that is it has to end really dark.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It has to go very dark.
That's stuff for animated television.
Because that means like the genocide of the clones essentially is kind of what that would be.
Yeah, I'm not sure they're going to show.
And I don't know if we're building up to that in the second season of Bad Batch. I mean, maybe towards the end, like I would imagine. But
well, clearly there's got to be something with. This
is a fascinating era. This is a fascinating.
It can't end well for all the Bad Batch.
I know, I agree. They're
probably
all
can
dead.
Survive. but I feel like a couple.
I feel like
of them
Omega
have
probably
to die.
will survive, and that's it.
Yeah, like
that's what
Omega
I feel like.
and maybe one of them. Like
I don't even. Omega might even show up in like the post Return of the Jedi era. Who knows? Like at this point, but God knows. Like
so. But I mean, I like Bad Batch for what it is. It's not trying to do too much. But I like the background stuff that's growing, and if it's building into something kind of like
and the clone philosophy stuff is very fascinating. So
8-episode arc at the end of Bad Batch or something. I think
anything that continues the story of the Clone Wars, and again, there's that story continues after Order 66. So, and I like the idea that we do explore the trauma and the thoughts of the actual clones, even after. I like how they're
constantly being affected by the people they interact with.
I love the idea that Star Wars and Filoni this isn't directly Filoni. It's one of his. He's the executive producer.
Yeah, but
and Brad Rao, I think, is the guy that
he's quite controlling.
Yeah, he's definitely very involved with
knows where he's.
But I'm glad that they felt that they get to finish off the story of the Clone Troopers. We almost get the full story altogether, even after their worst act or whatever you want to call it. So,
I think that's why there's some neat stuff that's going on with that.
All right.
Last of Us.
Last of Us
premiered on HBO
Sunday night.
Sunday night, and it was the second largest HBO premiere.
Yeah,
in
I think after House. Well, since 2010, I think it was.
You had to go back 14 years to whatever the last biggest premiere was, and I'm not sure. I never even.
I think House of the Dragon is actually the new biggest. It was only after House of the Dragon, but other than that, the last big one that would have been below it was back then. Yes, was back in 14 years ago.
But I mean, clearly.
Let me
do my bit first because I don't know the game.
Well, I don't know the game.
So let me. Before you do your bit, let me just look at it from a perspective of you got all kinds of shit you got to talk about. I don't know anything about the game.
Oh, I just want to preface with I think this is a cool we actually have a really decent dynamic here where I've actually played the game. I haven't played the second game yet, but I've played this game that this first season is based off of, and I know a decent, extensive bit about the lore just because I was into it so much, and it's one of my favorite.
Here's the balance
single-player experiences I've played. And then you don't know anything.
Well, let me give you my point. My point is the problem that they've always come up to with all these things, all these games that they try to do, they're trying to find a way to make gamers happy and make a regular audience happy. And every single time they've done this, they've tried to make a regular audience happy and they screw the people that actually liked the game.
Yeah.
Which is why the game got made into something.
It's a good way of playing.
And then it's always been this. Finally somebody said, this is the more important thing. The game's the most important thing. We're not going to screw with the game.
Yeah. And to be fair,
let me finish.
Yeah.
But we got to find a way of making sure that the audience could enjoy it too. So I don't know anything about it. I've never watched the cutscenes or whatever they're called. So all I know is I watched it and I'm like, man, this is really good. This is the best post-apocalyptic world I've seen.
I think it's the best video game adaptation already. It's been one episode.
I
think it's been
so
one episode.
I already am enjoying it.
It's the most faithful. Actually, it's honestly after
nothing about
after one episode of literally a single episode, it's probably the most faithful game adaptation I've watched.
Right.
Except for Halo. What a beautifully perfect adaptation.
Let's not go. I don't want to do any. I don't want to do any of that.
All right.
Folks, just talk about now that I got my little bit in about why. If you don't know anything about the game, it doesn't matter because it's really, really well done. Yep. So if you don't play the video game, don't worry about it because it's a good show. It's well done.
Obviously, the talk has already started.
It's not tough to follow some of these other things like.
And obviously, the talk has already started of will this change how other games approach? And a lot of industry people even said well, no, because not every game is the story of The Last of Us. And I'm like, well, that is very true. This in terms of adapting something. It's harder to find something that's more of a slam dunk than Last of Us. It's pretty conceptually really, really unique in terms of the zombie narrative they're using with the fungus, which is again is a real concept that they mention in the opening of the show. Spoilers for the show, by the way. The opening is a scene from that's not in the game at all, which is this flashback to almost like a talk show from the 60s.
Talk show from 1968.
And there's they have the guy from The Mummy, actually. He's the brother in the Mummy trilogy. is like the doctor who's an expert in like the fungus, and he talks about like how fungus take over like the brains of like bugs in some cases and like prevent them from decomposing, and then use them as like a puppeteer and to get around and to do things for them essentially. And that's essentially the idea of like, what if the world was to get, you know, just a little bit warmer, and then they need to evolve to get like, you know, slightly warmer to incubate in humans, and that's what the whole this whole thing is. And they flash to the present. The whole and again, this whole before they actually go 20 years into the apocalypse. This opening sequence in gaming is one of the most iconic like opening sequences to like a single player like storyline. Like that's what that mission is. And it is in the game, it starts in the evening, like right when Joel gets home from like the day at work. In this one, they gave us even more time in the real world, where we almost followed the daughter as a main character to school in the morning at breakfast, to go fix her dad's watch, which we don't see in the game. And then all throughout this, we see little things like the police going by when she's in the clock shop, or when she's at school, like just. And this is how they know, like, even post-COVID, like, how they're able to use little things to trigger people. So, like, at the end of one shot, you just hear, like, a cough. Like, in your mind, like, immediately brings you to, like, there's a part of everyone now where a cough almost, like, sets something off in certain, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I agree.
So they use that a little bit. And then she's looking at a guy's twitching, and if you know, like, that's a symptom. That's one of the twitching was literally, like, a symptom. It wasn't just like this random thing of looking at the wrist moving. Like, it was twitching because that kid was infected. Right. And he was losing body function. Like, it's in that scene. But he gets home, and so they do all that. We find out why Joel wasn't at home in the game. Why when she wakes up in the middle of the night and Joel's not there. We get this whole scene where her terrifying sequence. Well, a couple terrifying sequences in the neighbor's house, which both aren't in the game. One where she's, like, looking at the bookshelf, and you just see, like, the grandma or whatever, like in the wheelchair in the back, and just twitching around.
Who's incapacitated in that wheelchair?
Yeah, and then her mouth opens up, and it's all like blurred. It's in like the periphery of like the camera shot. Like it's incredibly well done. And then you get into the house, and she like slips on blood, and she sees like they actually have the fungus coming out of like the zombie's mouth, which is a new thing that's not in the game, but you see him like almost like biting into the neck, but it's not for like sustenance or anything. It's literally like she's burrowing into the neck, so she's like so the parasite or the fungus can transfer into the host of like to the next person. Like it's spreading like that. I think they've also done a thing where in the games, there's more risk of like spores like infecting you. Like usually when you see the human later on in the episode who's almost entirely turned into like the wall. Usually in the game, something like that would give off spores that could also infect you. I think I remember reading or hearing that they've kind of gotten rid of the spores, and it would be more like bite. It'll be more bite now. Like, and then that's why they do the mouth thing as well. Which it makes sense. Like the spore thing is almost a game mechanic where you like have to put like a mask on when you're walking through spores and stuff. So
we're already at an hour. So
are we already at an hour? Damn.
Yeah, we're already at an hour. So.
But literally this entire sequence, especially once they get in the car and are, you know, like this is still in the flashback sequence. Right. That entire sequence, like, is so good. And also, so many of the shots, like the burning house, the angle of the camera shot, which is in the back of the car, the long takes, the two cop cars driving by before they turn the other direction, the family that's left on the side of the road, the going up to the freeway and having it being blocked, like all of that is in the game. There's half of this first episode, like both in the apocalypse stuff, and so much of even like the flashback stuff or like the before the apocalypse stuff is dialogue in like sequences like right out of the game. The theme music is the theme music from the game. The characters all are perfectly cast. Like Tommy, like Joel's brother, I think right. Who's a Ghost Rider in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. for a season actually, and was very good as that role, and a lot of people want him to come back to Marvel at some level. He's the Robbie Reyes one with the Camaro. But he's what's it called? Tommy's like his brother, and he looks exactly like the the dude from the game as well, and is killing the role. Like,
well, I don't want to get too much into
Pascal's
the
killing it. Like,
the
daughter that played Sarah
the end
killed
of the
it, like,
initial sequence, and obviously there's spoilers here. That that has to set up like it's if you haven't seen it yet, like I'll just wait a couple seconds for you to click off. But basically at the end of the opening sequence, before we do the 20-year flash forward, like his daughter gets killed, and I will tell you, I gotta switch my camera.
Oh, you've never, as a person who's never knew nothing about it.
I see. Here's the thing, and here's the misdirection for someone like me. This is why it's great filmmaking. I knew he was with a girl in the future, and I've seen the trailer, but I didn't connect that it was a different girl. So the funny thing about this is that, there's the scene with the military guy and everything, and the death scene.
Yeah.
I will tell you, that is a very difficult. As a father,
visceral. That's visceral.
As a father. To watch that scene where he couldn't protect her.
Yeah.
And she's shot, and he's trying to like assure that it's okay.
He's trying to get her up, and she's like,
and the brother's like, Joe.
Well, they switch the camera shot, and he's like trying to get her up, and she's like in pain, and they switched, and he just says Joe with so much pain in his voice, and then they go back to like the Joel with holding her, and like the life is just gone in her eyes, and she's just gone.
And I can't tell you how difficult that is.
Yeah.
It's a scene.
And it's also like
as a father to watch that scene, knowing you see death on TV and movies all the time. That
was heavy.
That is one of the best realistic death scenes I've ever seen, and kudos to the director.
It's right out of the game.
But more importantly, the girl, because the girl, the fear in her face.
Yeah, and we have to connect. And we have to connect to that girl too in such a short amount of time. Yeah, to feel that moment when she's gone.
And a lot of people are sick of the zombie apocalyptic television, and they're not going to watch this.
Yeah.
If you can put that all aside.
Yeah.
What I really like about this is just the quality of filmmaking, the way the camera shots are done, a lot of that point of view within the truck. There's so many things we're seeing that are, and again, I admire well-made stuff. And obviously they have a huge budget and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, it's a director with a vision and the right cast, and this guy's just the guy, woman, whoever's directing this, writing this, envisioning it. The production
well, let me
team,
tell you,
they
it's
are
the
nailing
guy.
this
It's
shit.
the dude.
They are nailing
it's the
this.
game's creator. So they literally just hired the games. Which again, The Last of Us and like Naughty Dog, the studio, is a very narrative focused studio. It's almost like they make games where you're playing a movie character. That's the vibe. You're almost playing like the movie. Yeah. The storyline you're playing is almost intended to be narrative. So like that's why this is an easier adaptation. That being said, Naughty Dog also made what's it called? The Tom Holland. Uncharted, and that shit sucks. So I don't know, like what. I don't know what happened with that.
Aren't you also the character in Assassin's Creed? Aren't you also plays the character in Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, that's another thing. I don't know what Ubisoft did with that.
So like, it's not a question of the narrative. They just don't know what they're doing. This is the first thing where let's actually bring the game's
creator.
Let's bring the creator in and make him like involved.
Dude who did Chernobyl.
Right.
We're gonna mix. We're gonna get that guy who's already good and is already a great storyteller, just within video game and within a storytelling medium. But then we're gonna pair him up with the guy who did Chernobyl. Like the best show like ever made. Like basically,
HBO
like
has definitely a higher overall rating.
Also, the Chernobyl aesthetic comes all across, and it almost is perfect. It's very similar to the game. The aesthetic wise, even once you get to the future and like to the wall, say the quarantine zone, perfect. Almost like great, like aesthetically perfect. There's like posters and stuff, which are references in the background. Marlene, actually, the girl plays Marlene.
Talk about Marlene for a second.
Marlene is this the.
I've never seen this done before.
Marlene is the same character. Is the same voice actress from the game from 2013. And she was younger when she played the character too, playing an older character. And she's kind of just aged into like the right look. And she went through the whole process for like the audition process, and she won, and she gets to play the character, and she's not done a ton of work, and she's pretty good. And I've seen a lot of.
She's mainly just a voice actor. She doesn't do a lot of. She's not like a big star or anything.
And I watched
most
a lot
of the work she's done.
This is a good segue to what I wanted. Like I watched a lot of reactions to this just because I wanted to see how game people reacted to this, and again, and even like I cried when like Sarah dies in the beginning, and even unfolding Noel, it was coming. Like, again, because obviously it's coming. I've played the game. Like, we know that moment's coming, and that moment, it's just devastating. And I saw that, like, across the board, watching people react. Like, people that had played the game getting devastated by that scene. People who hadn't, like you said, people who had only been with the character for, like, 25 minutes. Like, or whatever, the half hour, felt
it's
devastated.
It's so difficult to create that type of empathy for a character in 25 minutes.
Exactly.
Not even, I don't know if it was 25 minutes. It might have been like 18. Like, yeah, I'm not even sure how they did that.
And the tension building in that early part is so good. Like, I've never seen tension building like that subtle and good like that.
Quite often you have these shows that come out and the first episode stinks because there's so much world building that they have to do. And they found a way because of the property of the game. In a great first episode to really build an entire universe, but also have moments that your heart just stops.
And because this is a show,
your heart just stops.
Because again,
5 or 6 times in that episode, your heart just stops.
Because honestly, the flashback sequence, what's different in this episode's almost entirely like, it's basically like spiritually the exact same as like the opening to the game. Like the first part, basically identical. They just added additional context. They made it better, honestly, I think. It's probably just because you're with the daughter all day, it probably hits more than it does in the game, too, if I'm being honest.
Right. Well, the plane crash is amazing.
The plane crash, like...
Which was obviously different from the game, but it took it to the next level.
But then in the game, they changed a couple things in the future a little bit. In the game, you have this first mission where it's almost like you learn the combat, and you go and take out... the guy that rips them off for the battery, like by themselves. Like, you know the 2 guys that are standing behind her when she's like getting interrogated or whatever?
Yeah.
Those 2 in the game are dead. She kills them.
Right.
Like, and then they go and deal with his guys by themselves, and they end up killing him because he screwed them out of weapons instead of the battery to go get Tommy. In this, though, they do a different thing where instead they're going for a battery, they get screwed out of the battery, and they go to find him, and to find that like the fireflies, which are like almost the main society that exists in this point is, and there's also like stuff like the one radio operator says like there's raiders and slavers, so there's the typical like post-apocalyptic like anarchist groups, but there's also these like big quarantine zones, like in a lot of the major cities have like these quarantine zones.
What's left of the government.
which are the military.
Right.
Which are basically these military dictatorships that rule through fear. If you leave the zone and then they catch you, you'll just get hanged, which leads to why, and there's never enough food. Like the little cards they're passing out, those are ration cards. Like that's for food. So that's why like Joel has like a job as like a smuggler. They're smuggling on all the extra supplies and stuff that like the place needs to survive. And there's this idea that there's a lot of quarantine zones in some of the major cities, which is why Boston is like destroyed too. It's not because it fell apart. Like the military bombed it to try to contain the virus.
Oh, for sure.
Which is like, I love that thinking because that's totally what the military would do. It's like, where's a virus? We gotta bomb the city.
Well, I mean, that's not a new theme in sci-fi, like, you know, or fantasy. Like,
no,
it's definitely something that's been done before because you get to a point where what do we freaking do? Like,
and then we get to,
you know, like you just kind of got to.
But instead
we're already way over.
The last thing though, I say instead they cut that mission and they allude to Joel and Triss is a partner at this time, 20 years later. They allude to like how kind of badass they are and how kind of like what they're capable of. But the first time you see it, the first time you see Joel's violence, instead of like being in a random like mission where he's taking out like his rivals, which again is like a video game warm-up level, instead they change it to be like the first moment he shows like incredible amounts of violence is at the end when he snaps, when he has the gun pointed at him and then he like literally beats the soldier to death. Like, so that at the end they have it be incredibly much, that moment of violence is much more poignant and much more like purposeful.
Which is why
like,
if you
so
can
it proves that like you can take the game story, take out the mission that was there for like a tutorial basically. You don't need that, and you adapt that like idea of Joel being brutal into a single moment.
Again, we can accept that because the game creator's sitting there going, "Oh yeah," I really
and then you
like
have Ellie
idea.
Watching that moment, and Ellie is like going to be like his surrogate.
Like, this guy's
surrogate daughter, and there's a difference though. Like it's almost a repeat of the moment where Joel takes out the old lady who's like with the wrench. But when he does that, his daughter like I think And this is what after the episode, this is what the creator said. Like, his daughter cries when Ellie sees it. She's activated because Ellie and there's remember like Doctor Who and with this idea of Clara and the 13th Doctor,
right? Where
like they were together, they almost became a problem,
right?
Like they had so much love for each other that they could conquer everything, which isn't always a good thing.
A hybrid.
That's what Joel and Ellie are. The concept of The Last of Us, and I won't spoil anything, is that love conquers all, and that's not always a good thing. Okay. That is the idea of let me wrap it up. Their relationship is very good.
Talk about real quick. Like, I thought that the production design.
Yeah, what are your thoughts?
The production design in the 20 years later was so good.
Yeah.
Like
very immersive.
This
very lived,
like something
very
as simple as like he's writing stuff on like a little spiral notebook that looks like it's really old. Like pencils. Nobody's making pencils. Or like, they make a reference to Atlanta. All they make is what, like
bullets and drugs.
Bullets and drugs.
Bullets
like,
and pills.
That's all they're making in Atlanta, which is
and then even
where the CDC is located, which would make sense.
And they expand him as a smuggler a bit
so again, they kind
of
understand his smuggling skills. The fact that he kind of walked past everybody. The fact that like he's got weed. Like there's
let me add one thing.
So many little things that I just really liked that I felt like seemed much more.
I even like he was like, I need the bag back. I need the because again, a plastic bag without holes, a Ziploc plastic bag without holes at this point is a commodity. Right. Like that's like there's not that many of those left. So like he pours it in his pocket.
That's why like I had problems with some of the the stuff in Walking Dead because like when they go to when they went to that one town where the houses all looked like something right out of a brand new why there's no way they don't have cleaning
and the Last of Us aesthetic is like very purposeful like the environment is what would actually happen.
Yeah, I
like
think
that
so
is
too.
very no, not even think so. Like that they've done the
growth.
They've done the science. Like the entire environment is they did the science and they know. Like this is what.
If you've watched,
they literally studied Chernobyl. Well, like how it overtook
but also if
everything.
you watch that one show, they used to have that show like the one What Happens. Like I forget the name of the show. Like what would Washington look like if there were no people for 20 years?
Yeah, exactly.
And what would grow and like the way trees and shit would start growing in the mall and just everything would go everywhere because we have maintenance people to go through and do things.
Exactly.
And just the way, power and flooding and cement cracking. And you don't ever get that in Walking Dead. Walking Dead, like the roads still look paved. Like they didn't crack. Like, it just no offense to Walking Dead because it was a different TV show and it was
we've been
this show is haters,
but we've been off Walking Dead for a long time. We started off like we kind of fell off. I've always preferred. I love apocalypse story narratives. And I love all sorts of. I love like deep in the future, like remnants of like because Halo is technically even like an apocalypse story if you think about it, or like a story like Horizon Zero Dawn, which is another video game, but it's like years later. But this is like apocalypse. Like I like the idea it's 20 years into it, where Walking Dead is like you're only like a year in, like at first. So like there's almost the idea that society hasn't managed to form anything yet, which is like interesting, but it's not like I like the idea of like okay, what is the society that would form like in the wake of everything, and that's what Last of Us does well. And I think that's realistically what would happen. I think the military would do like that sort of thing.
Nobody looks pretty. Like Walking Dead, there's a lot of people that look pretty. And their teeth look nice.
Yeah, they're not going to have that.
They're not doing that in this.
No.
And then I just saw, and again, I kind of get sick of apocalyptic shows, but this one is just really so far. I like it. I like where it's headed. I don't know how. I mean, I'll probably watch it.
There's a level of philosophy and like thought,
and I like that there's more to it. There's definitely more to it. And it's only one episode, so we'll just have to see. But we'll have to see where they go with it. But I'm kind of in right now with it. We'll see. I'm getting nervous, but I don't like monsters, so we'll see what happens.
It is horror-y.
When we get into the horror stuff, we'll see like if they do it in such a way so it's more Hitchcockian. Speaking of which,
it is a horror game in a way.
Hitchcockian, where I don't have to see it. I don't need to see it. And Walking Dead got into you needed to see it. I don't need to see it all the time. Let it be more psychological.
Well, there are 5,
and I'd rather you do it more psychological.
There are different versions of the zombies as well. I don't want to spoil, but
let's not get
there
into
are
that.
various versions.
When we see them, let's talk about it then. So I think we're already
we've only seen the base version so far.
Let's wrap this up. So good stuff. Check it out. You might if you don't like horror stuff, maybe you won't like it. But I think that from a storytelling standpoint, I really like what it is. Pedro Pascal is going to be the biggest actor of 2023 because he's going to go from this right into Mandalorian.
They have a deep understanding.
I don't know if he's got any other thing else he's doing, but he's such a big star right now.
It's a very deep exploration of like society and like of like morality, of love. Like it's very like it's a post-apocalyptic, but there's philosophically there's a lot to dive into, and the story is very poignant. So
just respect the source material.
Yeah,
that's all. In my mind, just respect your source material. All these guys that try to envision things, it usually goes badly.
And it's not that they did everything like it's not that they adapted this like one for one. Like they've changed things. They changed the nature of they changed the nature of the fungus. They changed like,
and they didn't offend anybody.
Even actually, like they even changed like they changed the date that the virus happens. They changed it to be 2003 to make it a little bit more like post 9/11y, and to make it all
because
and also
originally they make a reference to terrorism,
and almost to have it be like a bit of a parallel with because it's like in universe it's 2023 instead of 2033. So to have it be like, oh, this is like almost like an alternate history that could have happened to like us.
No, I like
so I like that they changed it from 2013 to the initial outbreak to 2003. So like they have changed things,
and those changes are fine because it makes sense within the universe. Like, and there's things that make it
every
work.
scene we've gotten though has been like basically an adaptation of a direct scene from the game.
Right.
So like, and that's all I need.
Obviously they can't do that forever. Obviously they can't do that forever.
I think they're basically going to do that.
Well,
like
I don't know. I don't know if there's enough cutscenes to build it off of that, and I don't know if the side missions. Let me make one other thing. One other thing I wanted to say, which I thought was really cool, was they found a way to make it feel like the game, and I don't think about games.
Yeah.
But to make it feel like, and here's the one that I really liked. Because I was watching with you and your brother, and we're watching it, and Joe kills the soldier guy, and Zach yells out, "Pick up the AK," and Sully just picks up the gun like you would do in a game. I'm like, yes, if you're. And it's not like, oh, let me collect this gun. Yeah. It was just very subtle.
And that's what all the sneaking and stuff does. That's what
I like that. I like that it still recognizes its source material and it's respecting the stylistic storytelling that has to be done.
And even when they're sneaking around trying not to run into the military, that's a mission in the game. So that's sneaking. That's exactly what that is. So
all right.
Yeah.
It's going to be good, I think. I'm excited about it. Next week, we'll be back. I'm sure by then we'll have seen Avatar 2.
Oh yeah,
or Puss in Boots, depending on.
Puss in Boots at this rate.
I'm kind of nervous right now because he said he was going to force me to go see Avatar. I still feel like I'm going to get chloroformed, and you're going to put like a pillowcase over my head.
Yeah.
And I'll be in a car.
No, you're gonna wake up though, and it's gonna be
like,
Puss
"Where
in
are we
Boots
going?
instead.
Where are you taking me?"
Yeah.
Meme trope, movie trope, and
I'm just gonna lie to you and say it's. I'm gonna lie to you and say it's Avatar, and it's actually gonna be Puss in Boots.
I would. See, you don't. I would rather. I'm
gonna
see Puss.
No, but I'm going to tell you it's Avatar the entire time, and then you're only at the last moment where you.
But I think
relief.
you just gave it away.
No,
can we just go see Puss in Boots first, just like to make a political statement on the status of Avatar?
Yeah, we can do that. Why not?
So next week, maybe I'll rant about.
I mean, it's the sixth biggest movie of all time, though, isn't it?
Puss in Boots?
No, not Puss in Boots.
What's the biggest movie of all time?
It's the sixth biggest. I said Avatar. It's past No Way Home or something.
I don't care.
So I don't know.
That's all bullshit.
We'll see how far it goes. Anyway, moving on.
All right. Adios. Well, thank you for watching. We appreciate everybody who tunes in and follows our stuff. We're having a great time doing this. I hope you have a good time watching. We'll be back soon. Take care.